You work hard, you make a decent income, and maybe you've even hit a few milestones that once felt out of reach. You got the promotion, maybe you bought the car you wanted, or you're living in a better place than you used to. On paper, everything looks like progress. But for some reason, at the end of every month, it still feels like your bank account is running on fumes. You start asking yourself, how is it possible that I'm earning more, but somehow I feel just as broke as before? That sinking feeling isn't unique. It's the quiet frustration most middle-class families experience. You're not alone in wondering why, despite doing what society says is the right thing, going to work, paying bills, maybe even saving here and there, money still slips through your fingers faster than you can catch it. And the truth is, it's not because you're lazy or bad with money. It's because most of us are unknowingly making the same financial mistakes over and over again. That's what this breakdown is about. We're going to go through the biggest money mistakes that keep people stuck, from overspending and lifestyle creep to the debt traps and bad investments that drain your future wealth. But this isn't just about pointing out problems. For each mistake, I'll share the practical strategies that actually work to turn things around. Here's the part you don't want to miss. Fixing even one of these mistakes can shift your entire financial life. Because sometimes it's not about making more money, it's about making smarter moves with the money you already have. So let's break it down. A raise at work and it feels amazing. The first instinct. Upgrade. Suddenly that car you've been driving feels a little too old. The apartment that once felt perfectly fine now seems cramped. Browsing for bigger places. Dinner at home turns into dinner out, and before you know it, that little bump in income is already spoken for. This is lifestyle creep in action. The idea that as your income rises, your spending rises right along with it. And here's the catch. It happens so quietly that most people don't even notice it until they realize their savings haven't grown at all. It starts small. Add a couple of streaming subscriptions because what's $10 here or there? Then you sign up for a gym membership you rarely use, order food delivery a few extra nights a week, or upgrade your phone early because you convince yourself you earned it. Each decision feels minor, but combined, they consume the exact amount of extra income you thought you'd be saving. On paper, you should be building wealth, but in reality, you're just maintaining the same financial stress, only with fancier stuff. The psychological trap makes it worse. You see your coworkers pull up in a new SUV, or your friends post about their luxury vacations on Instagram. That silent pressure to keep up nudges you into spending, not because you need the thing, but because you don't want to feel like you're falling behind. This comparison cycle is endless. There will always be someone with a nicer home, better clothes, or more expensive gadgets. And if you chase that, you'll never actually feel wealthy. You'll just feel exhausted, constantly trying to match lifestyles that may not even be sustainable for the people living them. The fix is simple in theory, but tough in practice live below your means. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy the things you love. Mean drawing a line between what you can afford and what you should spend. Every time your income goes up, challenge yourself to avoid automatically inflating your lifestyle. Track your expenses so you can actually see how much is creeping upward. Did your monthly costs jump right after your raise? Did you commit to a payment plan that eats into your budget the same way your old income did? If so, that's a red flag. The real goal isn't to spend more when you earn more. It's to widen the gap between your income and your spending. That gap is what builds wealth. It's the difference that allows you to save aggressively, invest consistently, and create the kind of financial cushion that actually changes your life. 1,000 raise won't do much if you turn around and lock yourself into a 9,000 increase in lifestyle costs. But if you can keep your spending the same and pocket that 10,000 into savings or investments, suddenly that raise has real power. Think of it this way, every lifestyle choice either pushes you closer to freedom or further into the cycle of just getting by. That extra night of takeout might feel small, but compounded over months, it can eat up what could have been your emergency fund. That shiny new car might feel like progress, but the monthly payment could keep you from investing in assets that actually grow in value. The trade-offs are invisible unless you track them, but once you do, the picture becomes clear. The people who win financially aren't the ones with the flashiest upgrades. They're the ones who resist the urge to match every new dollar with a new expense. They channel that difference into wealth building. And the best part is, this isn't about deprivation, it's about freedom. The less you tie yourself to inflated spending, the more choices you have. Choices about where to work, when to take risks, and how to live life on your own terms. Most people think budgeting means sitting down with a calculator and restricting every part of their life so they avoid it altogether. But the truth is, tracking your expenses is one of the most silent and dangerous money mistakes you can make. It's like trying to fill a bucket with water that has tiny holes at the bottom. You can keep pouring more in, working harder, earning more. But if you never notice the leaks, the bucket will never fill up. That's exactly how unmonitored spending works. It doesn't feel like much in the moment. A 12 subscription here, a 20 food delivery there, grabbing a coffee every morning because it's only a few bucks. None of these purchases seem big enough to derail your financial progress, but added together over weeks and months, they quietly drain your account. By the time you look up, you're wondering why your paycheck is gone even though you didn't make any big purchases. It's death by 1,000 cuts, and the worst part is you usually don't realize it's happening until it's too late. Think about impulse buys. Maybe you're scrolling late at night and order something from Amazon just because it's on sale. Or you're at the grocery store and grab extra snacks you didn't plan on. These small decisions add up fast. Without a budget or a system to track them, your money goes exactly where it wants to go out of your wallet. And it's not just random spending. Even necessary costs like groceries, gas, utilities can balloon if you're not watching them. The small differences each month add up to thousands over a year. The analogy of the bucket matters because most people believe earning more will automatically fix their money problems. But if your bucket is full of holes, pouring in more water doesn't solve anything. In fact, sometimes a bigger paycheck makes the problem worse because the leaks scale up. The 5 coffee becomes 50 dinners. The 20 splurges become 200 impulse buys. Without awareness, more income just means more leaks. The fix isn't about building some complicated system. It's about creating awareness. The moment you start tracking your money, even in the simplest way, you'll start noticing patterns that explain why you feel broke. You might see that you're paying for 3 different streaming services you barely use, or that dining out costs more than your rent over the course of a year. Awareness gives you power. Now you can make changes with intention instead of guessing. A simple spreadsheet works. Write down what comes in and what goes out. Break it into categories: housing, food, transportation, entertainment, savings, and see where the money is actually going. Or if spreadsheets aren't your thing, use an app. There are apps that automatically track your spending, categorize it, and even alert you when you're about to overspend. The tool itself doesn't matter as much as the habit of checking in regularly. The goal isn't perfection, it's visibility. What surprises most people when they start tracking is that budgeting doesn't feel restrictive at all. It feels freeing. Instead of wondering where your money went, you already know. Instead of feeling guilty after every purchase, whether it fits into your plan, it's like turning the lights on in a room. Suddenly the shadows that made you anxious disappear and you can see clearly. The foundation of financial success isn't a big salary, a fancy investment, or even paying off debt. It's knowing your cash flow. If you don't know where your money is going, you can't fix the leaks. But once you build even the simplest budgeting system, you're no longer guessing. You're in control. And once you're in control, every other financial strategy, saving, investing, paying down debt, becomes 10 times easier. Credit cards feel like a lifeline at first. You swipe when cash is tight, tell yourself you'll pay it off next month, and enjoy the convenience of not worrying in the moment. But slowly, that pay it later mindset builds into something heavier. One balance turns into 2, the minimum payments start stacking up, and before you know it, a big chunk of your monthly paycheck is going straight to interest. That's the debt spiral so many middle-class households quietly live with. The cycle of borrowing to survive today while sacrificing tomorrow's freedom. The tricky part about credit card debt is how normal it feels. Everyone around you has it, so it doesn't seem like a big deal. You tell yourself it's just temporary, that once you get your next raise or bonus, you'll wipe it out. But in reality, the interest doesn't wait for your promotion. A $1,000 balance left unpaid can quietly double over time if you're only paying minimums. While you're sending hundreds each month just to stay afloat, that's money you could have used to invest, save for a home, or build an emergency fund. It doesn't just hold you back in the present, it robs your future opportunities. The snowball effect makes it worse. If you're juggling multiple cards, you might use one to cover expenses when another is maxed out. You're borrowing from one problem to pay for another, and it feels like quicksand. The deeper you go, the harder it is to climb out, and the guilt starts to pile on too. You know you're paying more in interest than you should, you can't find a way out. That mental weight is just as damaging as the financial cost. Escaping the trap starts with changing priorities. High interest debt has to be treated like an emergency. Casually chip away at it when you can, you attack it. Every extra dollar you find should go toward cutting down the balance, because every month you wait, the interest grows like a tax on your future self. A small shift, paying $50 more than the minimum each month, can save you hundreds, even thousands in the long run. To make it sustainable, many people use systems like the snowball or avalanche method. With the snowball, you pay off your smallest debt first while making minimums on the rest. The quick win gives you momentum, and once that card is cleared, you roll the freed up payment into the next balance. With the avalanche, after the highest, interest debt first, because mathematically it saves you the most money. Either way, the key is focus. Pick a method, stick to it, and keep hammering away. Progress may feel slow at first, but eventually the momentum flips in your favor. Another powerful fix is switching back to debit or cash-based spending. It sounds old school, but it rewires your habits. When you swipe a credit card, it doesn't feel like real money leaving your account, which makes it easier to overspend. But when you use debit or cash, you're immediately aware of what you have and what you don't. That awareness creates natural boundaries, relying on the "I'll figure it out later" mindset, and start making decisions based on what you can actually afford now. The middle class trap isn't just about using credit, it's about normalizing debt as a permanent part of life. The truth is, carrying balances month after month isn't normal, it's expensive. It delays wealth building by years, sometimes decades. Every dollar going to interest is a dollar that could have been compounding for your retirement, growing in investments, or building security for your family. The path out isn't easy, but it's straightforward. Stop thinking of debt as background noise and treat it like the emergency it really is. Attack it with urgency, switch to habits that prevent it from building again, and remember that escaping the credit spiral isn't just about money, it's about freedom. Because once you're out, your paycheck belongs to you again, not the bank. One of the biggest financial mistakes people make doesn't happen in the grocery store or with a random subscription. It happens with the biggest purchases of their lives. Too much house or too much car can lock you into years of stress, even if your income looks strong on paper. These decisions are so common because they feel like milestones of success. A bigger house feels like progress, feels like you've made it. But in reality, oversized mortgages and long car loans can quietly strangle your financial future. Take the example of a house. Maybe the bank says you qualify for a $500,000 mortgage, so you stretch your budget and buy as much house as they'll approve. At first, you're proud, it's a dream home, and you can technically make the payments. But then you notice how much of your paycheck is tied up every month just to keep the house running. The mortgage, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities, it all adds up. Suddenly, there's not much left over for savings, investing, or even enjoying life. On paper, you own a great house. In practice, the house owns you. Cars are no different. Dealerships make it easy to drive off with something flashy by stretching loans over 6 or 7 years. The monthly payment looks manageable. You're paying tens of thousands of dollars in interest for a depreciating asset, something that loses value the second you drive it off the lot. Add in higher insurance, fuel, and maintenance. Affordable monthly payment becomes a financial chokehold. And unlike a house, which at least has the potential to grow in value, a car is guaranteed to drop in worth over time. You're locking up money in something that's shrinking, not growing. What makes these decisions so dangerous is how invisible the cost feels at first. Realize how much they limit you until you try to do something else with your money. You want to invest more, but the mortgage eats too much. You want to save for your kid's education, but the car payment is due. You want to take a trip, build an emergency fund, or start a business, but every dollar is already spoken for. It's like living with golden handcuffs. From the outside, it looks like success, but inside, you're stuck. The fix starts with changing how you view these purchases. A house isn't just a status symbol, it's shelter. A car isn't a trophy, it's transportation. Seeing them as measures of worth and start treating them as financial tools, the decisions become clearer. That might mean buying a smaller, more affordable home that leaves you breathing room in your budget. It might mean driving a reliable used car for years instead of trading up every time a new model comes out. These choices don't mean you're settling. In fact, they're the opposite. Free up cash flow so you can build wealth in ways that actually matter. A $300 difference in a car payment invested every month can grow into hundreds of thousands over time. Choosing a home that costs less than the bank says you can afford might mean less stress, more savings, and more flexibility when life throws curveballs. The mindset shift is the most important part. The middle class often ties identity to these big ticket items because they're visible markers of success. But the people who build lasting wealth know that financial freedom is a better status symbol than a luxury badge on a car. A paid-off house in 20 years is more impressive than a massive one that drains you for 40. The real power comes from knowing that these purchases don't have to trap you. By choosing wisely, you give yourself room to breathe, room to save, and room to actually enjoy life without the constant weight of oversized payments. That's what makes the difference between looking rich and actually being financially secure. Life has a way of throwing surprises at you when you least expect it. The car breaks down right after you've just caught up on bills. A medical bill shows up in the mail that's way higher than you thought it would be. Or worse, a job loss suddenly cuts off the income you've been relying on. For many middle-class families, these moments don't just feel stressful. They become financial disasters. And the reason is simple: no safety net in place. Without an emergency fund, even a small setback can send you straight into debt. Living without that buffer feels like walking a tightrope with no net underneath. As long as everything goes perfectly, you're fine. But one slip, an unexpected expense, and you're falling. The landing usually looks like swiping a credit card, taking on a personal loan, or pulling from retirement savings early. Each of those choices solves the short-term problem, but creates a long-term one. You've traded an emergency expense for high interest debt or penalties that take months or even years to undo. What makes this mistake so dangerous is how common it is. Most households underestimate how often emergencies pop up. Cars don't wait until your budget is ready to break down. Healthcare costs don't schedule themselves around your pay raises. Life doesn't care about your timing. Without a cash buffer, every problem turns into a financial crisis. And the stress compounds. It's not just the money you lose, it's the constant anxiety of knowing you're one accident away from disaster. The fix isn't about building a huge safety net overnight, it's about starting small. Even 500 to 100,000 set aside can make a massive difference. That amount alone is enough to cover most small emergencies. A flat tire, bill, a surprise utility cost without needing to swipe a card. It gives you just enough breathing room to avoid panicking. For many people, that's the first taste of what financial security actually feels like. Once you've got that starter fund, the goal is to build momentum. Automating your savings makes this a lot easier. Treat your emergency fund like a bill that's due every month, except this bill is to yourself. Set up an automatic transfer on payday so the money moves before you even see it. When savings become automatic, you remove the temptation to spend it elsewhere, and the fund starts growing in the background while you focus on your life. The long-term target is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. That sounds huge at first, but it's not about hitting the goal instantly. It's about consistency. Every deposit, no matter how small, builds your net wider and stronger. Over time, you'll notice something shift. Your stress levels go down. You stop holding your breath every time something breaks. A medical bill still stings, but it doesn't destroy you. A layoff is still scary, but you know you can keep your family afloat while you figure out the next step. The real value of an emergency fund isn't just financial, it's emotional. It's the peace of mind that you're not living paycheck to paycheck on the edge of disaster. It's the freedom to make better decisions because you're not reacting from panic. It's the ability to focus on building wealth instead of constantly cleaning up setbacks. This is one of those habits that separates people who stay stuck from people who move ahead. Without a fund, constantly resetting to zero after every crisis. With a fund, you keep moving forward. It doesn't mean life stops throwing curveballs, but it does mean you're ready to catch them. Readiness is what gives you stability, security, and the confidence to keep building toward bigger goals. One of the biggest financial mistakes isn't something you feel in the moment, it's something that sneaks up on you years later. Waiting too long to invest or not investing at all, one of the most expensive mistakes people make because it robs you of the one advantage you can't get back: time. Compounding growth only works if you give it years to do its magic. The earlier you start, the less you need to invest to build serious wealth. But when you wait, you put yourself in the position of playing catch up, and that gap can become nearly impossible to close. Imagine two people. One starts investing $200 a month at age 25 and stops after 10 years. They've put in a total of $24,000. The other doesn't start until age 35, but invests $200 every month until they're 65. They've put in $72,000. Who ends up with more at retirement? Surprisingly, the first person, the one who started earlier and invested less, often wins. That's the power of compounding. The money has decades to grow on top of itself, like a snowball rolling downhill. The later you wait, the less time that snowball has to build momentum, and the harder it becomes to catch up no matter how much you put in. The trap is that most people think they don't have enough to invest, so they wait until they feel ready. But that's the wrong mindset. You don't need thousands of dollars to start. Small amounts matter because the habit is more important than the amount. A consistent 50 or 100 a month is better than nothing because it gets the snowball rolling. Waiting until you can contribute a big amount just wastes years you'll never get back. Another common fear is losing money. Delay investing because they're afraid a market crashes or because they think they need to know how to pick the right stocks. But the truth is, you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to predict the market, need to trade every day. The simplest strategy, investing in broad index funds and automating contributions, beats most complicated approaches over the long run. The reason is simple: it keeps you consistent. Worrying about timing the market, you're letting time in the market do the work for you. The difference between investing and not investing isn't just about retirement either. It's about freedom. If you start early, your investments can grow enough to give you options, whether that's retiring earlier, reducing how much you need to work, or covering big expenses without taking on debt. If you don't invest, your only option for wealth building is to keep working and saving, which is limited. Saving is important, but savings alone rarely build long-term wealth because inflation eats away at the value. Investing is what multiplies your efforts. The fix is straightforward: start now, even if it feels small. Open an investment account, choose a low-cost index fund, and set up automatic contributions. Treat it like a bill that you owe your future self. The money goes in before you even have a chance to spend it. Over time, you probably won't even notice it leaving your account, but your future will definitely notice the balance growing. The mindset shift is key. Time, not timing, is the biggest factor in wealth building. The people who start early and stay consistent win, not because they picked the perfect stock or called the market right, because they gave compounding the years it needs. Even if you feel behind right now, the best time to start is today. The second best time was yesterday. Every year you wait makes the hill steeper, but every year you invest makes the climb easier. Building wealth isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about giving yourself the time to let the money work for you. Start small, stay consistent, and let time do the heavy lifting. That's how ordinary people turn steady habits into extraordinary results.